Let's get back on the scooter and head into the hills. As I said, I have no idea where this road goes, how far I can get up into the hills, or even if there's any point to going up here. I'm hoping for an interesting view of Umphang town itself. Oh, there's a sign there that looks like I could do some Google translating on. Reporting back, there was nothing on the signs that gave me much information. It just said the kind of place names, I think, maybe the names of the villages up here. One was 6 kilometers away and another 12. But beyond that, couldn't make any sense out of it. One of the guys staying at my guest house permanently, he works at some kind of an electric station. And I've tried to find out from him more details, but I couldn't quite understand what he was saying. But he kept pointing off in this direction and making motions with his hands, like going far away up into the hills. I think he said something like 10 kilometers. And talking about electricity, and he works there. So some sort of a power plant, maybe water generation, like a dam system, I'm not sure. But maybe that's what is off in this direction. Just checking Google Maps, because I'm at an intersection. Good thing I checked Google Maps, because going left or going right makes a big difference. Going left takes me up into the hills. Going right kind of curves around back into Umphang. It would have been interesting to go right, but I wanted to head up into the hills first. Of course, it remains to be seen just how far I can go along this road. I could easily run into another pandemic blockade as I head towards some of the farming communities in this direction. But we shall see. Ugh. We're definitely climbing. This is a steep road. That's good. And hopefully a view will open up to my right back towards Umphang itself. I've said it before, but I'll say it again. It's certainly very extreme, the differences between having a scooter and having a touring bicycle when you're traveling, because if I were on a touring bike, chances are very slim that I would make the effort to come up here. Probably would end up breaking the drivetrain on my bike, you know, all the force you would need to climb up a hill this steep. Certainly couldn't do it with a fully loaded touring bike. It's way too steep and rough. And even if you're walking up here would require a fair amount of effort. It would be enjoyable, but you're working pretty hard. You'd think about it. Do I really want to walk all the way up that road? But on a scooter, the world is yours. You can go anywhere you want without that much effort. I looked at this road on satellite view and I couldn't tell whether it was paved or not, but it looks like it's all sort of half and half. It might as well be not paved at all, because even the paved parts are pretty rough and rocky. Oh, the manager at my guest house was telling me an interesting story this morning. He speaks a bit of English. His stories aren't always perfectly clear to me, but after some questionings and going back and forth, I can kind of figure out the basic outline of what he's trying to say. Hello. And he said that last night he had an adventure because some local people went up into the hills to collect mushrooms and they got lost. They couldn't find their way out of the hills and they never came home, and it became dark. So people started to worry about them, and he was part of a search team. The community got together and put together a search and rescue operation, and everyone who was available went off into the hills with flashlights, and they found these people. They found them and rescued them and brought them back into Umphang. So he said he was quite tired today because he was out all night. I don't think he got back to the guest house until 3 or 4 in the morning after they found these people that got lost, the mushroom pickers. The manager of the Umphang house seems to be very civic-minded because he was part of the rescue effort. I asked him if he was a member of the official search and rescue team, complete with a uniform and meetings and memberships, but I think he said no. He just sort of did it. He heard about these people that were missing, and he just went as a volunteer to try and find them. And the other day, he was also talking about volunteer efforts to help people that are being badly affected by the pandemic and loss of income. A little bit of an opening off here to the left. There's a house, truck, and a scooter. But just through the trees there, you can see beautiful landscape. Yeah, I haven't seen the river valley from this side before, so this is quite interesting. And there's more of it over there. And something else that I've mentioned about being on a scooter before, it has the advantage that the local dogs don't give you a hard time. When I parked the scooter to go look at that sign and try and Google Translate it, as soon as I was on foot and walking towards that sign, all the dogs in the neighborhood started barking and running at me. But they didn't pay any attention to me at all when I was on the scooter. Nice view. I'm not getting the view back towards Umphang that I wanted. We seem to be heading further into the hills, and oh, maybe I spoke too soon. Oh, there's a nice view on my right. Ah, that's what I wanted. Let's park this and go take a quick look. Just over this short rise on my left, I think we're going to get a nice view. Wow, look at that. Oh, stunning. That is gorgeous. Can't see Umphang. Umphang would be over there on the other side of that tree line, and down, that's where the town is located. So we're looking into another valley. Imagine farming this land. Where I'm from in southern Ontario, and of course the prairie provinces of Canada, Manitoba and Saskatchewan, and then heading into Alberta even, it's endless mile after mile after mile of flat land, almost perfectly flat land that is easy to farm. But can you imagine farming this land? All of these, the rolling hills and hillsides. Just getting to your fields and then getting home again requires walking up and down. And you can see the altitude difference between, you know, a field down there and then all the way up there at the top, a field up there. And if you're the farmer that owns this land, you're walking up and down a lot. Or, of course, they're probably just riding their motorbikes. That's what they do. Well, I have my Panasonic LX10 with me, so I think I totally forgot about it again. I intended to capture some video of the scenery using the Panasonic, but so far I forgot that I had it with me. But I'm going to set up and take some video of this. Oh, okay, I've been hanging out here for a little while using my Panasonic just to shoot some of this vista, the scenic vista around me. No time lapse or anything like that. I was just shooting in real time. I sort of set the camera up in 5 or 6 different directions, recording 2 to 4 minutes in each direction. I kind of had to wait a long time between shots though, because even though this is a country road just leading to some farming communities, it gets a fair amount of traffic. And when a pickup truck or a motorcycle shows up, it has to move so slowly because it's quite rough, the road, that it takes a long time for the truck to enter the scene with the roar of its engine and then finally get over the hill on the other side and get far enough away that the engine isn't so loud anymore. So I had to time my shots for the periods, the quiet periods when there were no vehicles on the road, like right now. Perfectly quiet. So yeah, I took a shot off pretty much in this direction. I put these, the burnt tree stumps in the foreground as much as I could. The Panasonic isn't as wide as the GoPro. This is actually the narrowest field of view on the GoPro. This is linear with horizon leveling. So this is actually as narrow as the GoPro gets. After this, it gets much wider and wider, but the Panasonic isn't even this wide. So it's a bit of a narrower field of view. And then I took another shot in this direction, kind of with this tree stump in the foreground. And then I kind of zoomed in a little bit on the hills over there. Got a little bit tighter shot of that hillside with the houses, the farming houses there. And that's what I've been filming. It's an interesting landscape because I haven't come up here before. On my last trip to Umphang, I went off quite far in that direction, down the river valley, I guess around this corner and heading there. It's hard to keep your sense of direction straight up here. And then I went hiking up into the surrounding hills, pretty much the same height as what I'm at right now. But on that side, the whole area was deforested. Here, all these fields, I don't know, maybe 50% of this land is covered in corn and other crops, and the remaining 50% still has a lot of trees. But on the other side, there were almost no trees at all. All you saw were stumps. A variety of stumps like this, blackened, dotted around the fields. And there weren't very many trees left. So there are a lot more trees still in evidence over here. So it's quite a beautiful setting. But yeah, I guess it's time to go, get back on the scooter. To be honest, I don't really even need to go much further into the hills. This is kind of the scenery that I was looking for. And I don't really need to go much farther, but I am going to go a little bit further into the hills, see where the road goes, and then turn around and keeping an eye on the rain. I don't want to get caught in too heavy a rainfall while I'm out here. But when I was chatting with the man from Switzerland, he's working here with a Swiss foundation, an NGO, and he told me a little bit about his work, and it's connected with the farmers in this area. And we were talking about the problem of deforestation here and around the world. If you cut down all the trees, of course, that leads to erosion and landslides, and all the good soil, all the good farming soil can actually be washed away if you cut down all the surrounding trees. And that's a problem everywhere in the world. But his work is connected with the farmers and with deforestation and proper finances for the farms to make them profitable long term, that kind of thing. So yeah, the sky here filled with dragonflies, which is very cool. I can see them with my eyes, but you probably can't see them on the GoPro that clearly. It's the kind of scenery, it always strikes me, a scene like this, you find a place like this and you take a picture of it. In the old days, I would take a photograph or two. Now I'm shooting video and photographs, I guess, because a video really is just a series of still pictures. And I just want to absorb all of it. You know what I mean? You feel like you should be doing more. It's just such an amazing scene. You don't want to leave it. You kind of want to just pull it all in and do something with that scenery, if that makes any sense. You just kind of want to. So I don't know, I have to fight off the impulse to film in this direction, that direction, zoom in, zoom out, zoom this way, go here, go here. You just kind of want to capture all of it. You feel like you can't do enough in terms of appreciating what you're looking at. But anyway, it's time to go. Put on my helmet, my face mask, my pandemic mask, and ride further up the road off in that direction and see where I end up. One last thing before I continue on. I had time while the Panasonic was filming just to look around and sort of take in the crops, and I got a nice close-up view of the corn here. So this is corn below me. Sometimes I get mixed up from a distance whether it's corn or sugarcane, because it's both tall stalks, green stalks, and but this is all corn, of course. And there's a large stalk of corn there, getting almost big enough to be harvested. And I was thinking of this again in terms of my little soliloquy about the sense of touch, because you've got that tassel here, right? And I would normally look at this and take a picture of it, but generally you wouldn't touch things like this. It's like a whole sense we have that we don't actually use that often. Yeah, it's very cool. It feels like, obviously feels like dry hair, or a horse's hair. And then some corn. And then way up at the top, you always have this tassels up here. Huh. So there you go. The sense of touch in a cornfield. And for all this wood as well. You know, got all these tree stumps, and you can just sort of see what it feels like. Of course, making sure there are no poisonous spiders or snakes hiding anywhere near where you put your hands. Of course, you have to be careful of that. And in Canada, and in other places actually, I have to be very careful of poison oak and poison ivy, because I haven't been around any of it for many, many years. But in my youth and a couple of times later on, I stumbled into some poison ivy, and my skin just erupts. I'm very allergic to poison ivy. And a brief encounter with poison ivy or poison oak can lead to days and days and days of utter misery. It's terrible stuff. So hopefully Hopefully nothing around me here is the Thai equivalent of poison ivy. Yeah, sure hope not. I'm back on the scooter, moved a little bit further into the countryside, just came across this opening. Nice clearing, gives a nice shot. And right across the road, at the mid-level of the hills, at the first tree line, you can see rainstorms coming down out of that dark cloud. Raining heavily over there. Where I am, it's just sprinkling, so I'm okay for now. But I don't know how much farther I'm going to go because we're heading into the afternoon now, and that's when the full rains start to hit. I don't mind getting wet myself, but once it starts to rain, I have to put away all of my microphones and waterproof the GoPros. Plus, of course, the road gets a little bit more tricky to navigate, a little bit more slippery. And slippery not just for me, but for other vehicles, like that truck that just came around the corner. If he came around that corner at really high speed, he was going pretty fast already. And if the road was slippery, he could lose traction, slide across the road and hit me. So just in general, I would rather not be out here in the rain if I can help it. But I do want to get over this ridge, see what's on the other side. Just climbed up a steep portion of the road, and I'm wondering whether I'll be presented with some new and interesting views. There's an opening, kind of an opening. Oh, look at that. Okay, there's a road, goes down into that farming area that I was just filming. In here you can see what I was talking about, how farmers here would have to be going up and down a lot. Whoever's down there working actually left their motorcycle up here at the top, because even his workhorse motorbike right over there, it's not going to make it up and down that hill. Let's go. I checked Google Maps, and in fact I could follow this road for a long ways, quite a few kilometers in this direction. It's a beautiful road, nice and smooth right here. A lot of thick So we've just reached the border of the Umphang Wildlife Sanctuary. Boundary border. I guess we're entering into a wildlife sanctuary area. I think it's quite a big area, that Umphang Sanctuary. I run into the border markings all over the place, so I think it stretches for a lot of square kilometers. Yeah, this road is in surprisingly good condition in some sections. I've decided to turn around. I went for a few kilometers in that direction, and it was a lot of more and more and more of the same. The road looked like this, got extremely rough on the other side of this hill, and then it was always just sort of a jungle road like this. And I think I'd eventually come across more farms and villages in that direction, but I think given how long I've been sort of out with my cameras already and the rain moving in, I'm going to turn around and head back into town. I've now got the GoPro on my chest harness, aiming ahead of me, and I have it set to super view. See how that looks. If the rain didn't drive me out, the mosquitoes and the bees and the bugs would. Uh-oh. There we go. Sometimes the ignition on this scooter is a little bit tricky. Doesn't always catch. There we go. Nice to be moving again, because once you're moving, the mosquitoes that you've collected while you're standing still kind of disperse a little bit. I can really drive you up the wall. I guess what I was talking about camping and how a chair makes all the difference in the world. That's true, but I also wonder about how the human race managed to do anything at all before we invented doors and windows and indoor living. Okay, I just couldn't imagine living in the bush all the time. Sort of hunter-gatherer societies. Would they not be tormented by the mosquitoes until they all basically lose their minds? I know I would. There's a very famous video, or film actually, from Canada. I think it was put together by the National Film Board. All Canadians will know it and be very familiar with it. I forget the exact name, but you should be able to find it on YouTube just by typing in something like Black Fly, National Film Board, Black Fly, something. It's just this short animated film about people being tormented by the black flies of Canada, who will, if you let them, they will eat you alive. They will eat you up right down to the bone. They're absolutely voracious. And the other day I was thinking a lot about time lapses and the varying passages of time, the scale of time, how time is different for different creatures. Like for me, time is passing at one pace, but for a tree that's been around for 1,000 years and growing slowly, time is different for that tree, because all these plants around us, all of them are moving. They're all growing, but they're moving and growing at such a slow speed that we as humans don't even see it. You would have to film these trees in a time lapse, and then you would see that all these plants are actually moving. But with our brains and with our eyes, we're not even aware of the movement. So I was thinking about that, getting all philosophical, and I remembered another very famous National Film Board movie I saw when I was a kid in grade school, and it made such a big impression on me that I've never forgotten it. And again, I've forgotten the name of it though, but it is a kind of a musical. It's not animated. It's actually the film of a man in a canoe, and he's floating on the Great Lakes of North America, paddling this canoe on the Great Lakes. And the song is singing about how the Great Lakes were formed, how the ice ages came and went, and the glaciers came down from the north. And as the glaciers moved south and then retreated, they scraped giant holes in the land, and these holes created the Great Lakes. And the man in the canoe, he was living in real time as far from his point of view, but the film itself was moving in glacier time. So he would be paddling along on the water, and then out of nowhere, he was suddenly paddling on solid ice because the glacier had formed all around him. So he was trying to move his canoe along the glacier, along the snow, and then suddenly the film jumped ahead by tens of thousands of years, and the glacier was gone, and now his canoe and he was poised 1 kilometer above the water below him, and he fell through the air a full kilometer and smashed into the water down below, completely destroyed his canoe. So it was a very interesting concept where that man was operating in human time, but the film behind him and the environment was moving at a much higher time-lapse mode as the glaciers would come and go and would move forward and then retreat again. And he was experiencing the passage of the glaciers. It was a very interesting film. Oh. We're getting close to where I stopped to film the landscape. I think it's right on the other side of this hill. So how does super view look on the GoPro? This is where I was. I'm going to stop here just for a second. As I said, I'm very greedy when it comes to this scenery. I want to absorb just a little bit more before I leave it, and perhaps see what it looks like on super view on my GoPro. Yeah, I've gotten lucky with the rain so far. Way off in the distance there, dead center of the video, you can see sheets of rain coming down. So whoever's over there is getting wet. And if you look off in this direction where the road goes, look at those clouds moving in. That's rain coming my way. So yeah, time to get out of here. With the GoPro in the chest harness, the chest mount, you do wonder if it's pointing, if it's angled right. I have it pointed upwards a little bit for when I'm riding the scooter, but maybe when I'm standing here, it's pointing too far up, and then I want to angle it down a little bit like that. Feels like that would be a better view of the scenery. And that's how it's angled naturally right there. And of course I can adjust it to be pointing as high or as low as I want. But having it pointing like this seems better for riding the scooter. If it was pointing downwards, then all you would see is the handlebars and the mirrors and the rest of the scooter. Sort of like if it was angled down like that, you know, you wouldn't see enough of the road. So I'm trying to angle it upwards as much as possible. Yeah, ignition isn't working again. Come on. There we go. Just had to turn the handlebars a bit. So yeah, it would definitely not be good if I couldn't get the scooter started now that I'm all the way out here. That would turn my small adventure into a slightly bigger adventure that I'm not in the mood for right now. I'd have to flag down one of these pickup trucks to load up my scooter and drive me back into town, or push it all the way. It's always interesting to go uphill, because after going uphill for a long time, you sort of just forget that you're going uphill and you just ride and ride and ride. But then when you turn around and go back and you go downhill all the distance you've climbed, then you suddenly realize, like, wow, I climbed a lot more than I thought. I've been going down for what feels like a long time, and it's pretty steep.